Hi, I'm Jean Schumacher, founder of Simply Plant Based, where I have a lot of programs to help you to change your health destiny, including the Plant Based Academy, where I provide help, support, guidance, resources to help you switch to a plant-based lifestyle. And today I have the privilege of connecting with Tim Kaufman, author of Fat Man Rants, and his new book, Escape, Breaking Free from a Self-Made Prison. Ooh, that's a powerful one. Thank you so much, Tim, for taking the time to be with me here today.
Gene, thank you for having me, and thank you for everything you do to make the world a healthier place. I know you work super hard at it, and I sincerely appreciate it, and I know I am not alone.
Well, thank you. But I need to talk about this book coming up today because, oh my gosh, you sent me the advanced copy and powerful. Wow. Well, before we get into the book, but you got to share your story because it's powerful. And for anybody who hasn't heard the full, I did an interview with you before, and your story is just incredible. So just share it with us.
Yeah, I'll give you the super fast condensed version. So I grew up in a very rural town, Alden, New York. It's about 20 miles east of Buffalo. And I kind of grew up on a farm. That's what you did when you were young and you were in Alden. You worked on a farm, and I worked really, really hard. I worked on a dairy farm with about 100 cows, and that's all I knew. And I knew it was hard work, but I also knew that I kept getting hurt all the time. I would twist my ankle, kind of pop my knee out, and I thought I was just really klutzy. Well, we would find out later that it was a little bit more involved than just being a klutz. And I actually, through a shoulder injury that they couldn't put back together, it kept dislocating. I went to get surgery on this shoulder. And when they went in there to fix it, they found out I had something more than just a bad shoulder. And I had this disease called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And basically, the collagen in my body, kind of the glue that holds my body together, has a genetic screw up. And so it's really super stretchy. And when I was young, I mean, you're kind of really stretchy when you're young, anyways. But as I got older into my late teens, things started, hitting the wrong way and kind of putting chips in the cartilage. And my body actually, in my early 20s, was loaded with arthritis. In fact, to the point the doctor said that my joints looked like they were 70 years old in my early 20s. So the prognosis for this disease, they filled out disability papers, which Heather and I were just starting a new life. We had just bought a house. We're only 19, 20 years old and we got married. So we had our whole life in front of us. And, I was supposed to be this hardworking provider. And here a doctor's giving me disability papers. I didn't fill out the disability papers. I dropped them in the garbage can because I thought I was invincible. And the other thing they told me to do was go home and do as little as you possibly can. Don't move your body because your joints are on borrowed time, and every little nick that you put in that cartilage is a nick you can never get back. So do as little as you possibly can. The other thing that happened with that doctor's visit is I was given some painkillers. And the painkillers, I had never taken them before, but they worked really, really well the first time I took them. And I'm not sure, living in chronic pain, that I ever really knew I was in chronic pain until I was kind of muffled with these narcotics. And, this typical story, the first time you take them, they work really good, they're super effective, and then they don't. So you have to take more, and then you have to take different kinds. And fast forward 10 years, I went through Lortab to Percocet to Oxycontin. Oxycontin was like booming back then. This would be, the late 90s where the craze was all the Oxycontin. I worked my way up to that. And the doctor said he wanted to try another drug called fentanyl. The fentanyl, we know what it is today. Back then, I had no clue. And the fentanyl was a transdermal patch, which means I had a constant supply along with all the other opioids. And most of these by now, I was on 120 tablets a month. I found really creative ways to get more than I needed. The fentanyl was the same exact thing. It worked really well until it didn't. So I got on the max dose of that. And, there were days I would take 30 to 40 tablets a day plus the fentanyl. it just never seemed enough. I just couldn't get out of pain. I started this thing on a physical pain. And I think in short order, it turned into an emotional pain and perhaps even spiritual pain. And I just wanted to escape. I just wanted to escape reality. And so I hadn't slept for nights on end. I stopped on the way home from work one night and I got a bottle of vodka. My parents didn't drink. I never saw them drink, smoke. They're super conservative, very straight laced. Never even heard my parents swear unless I did something really bad. And I wasn't around alcohol. But for some reason, I thought it was a good idea to buy a 1.75 liter of vodka. That night before I went to bed, I took a handful of pills, popped them in my mouth, and I chased them down with almost an entire liter of vodka. My eyes rolled in the back of my head. I blacked out. And I wish I could say I woke up the next morning with alcohol poisoning, sicker than a dog, wishing I'd never do it again. And I wish I would have learned my lesson. But unfortunately, that was the first day of a new cycle that would take years to break. At my worst, I was taking so many pills, max dose of fentanyl, alcohol. And then the other thing that I used to use to escape, which sounds really weird to group it in this class of drugs and alcohol, but was food. Food gave me all the same things that the drugs did. I'd get really excited sitting in the drive-through and I'd get my food and I'd just feel really happy and almost like a warm sensation, just like the alcohol. And I would eat that food. The first bite would just be delicious. And in 2 minutes, it was all gone. And I look at the greasy wrapper and I shake my head and like, why do I keep doing this? What keeps me going back to this stuff? So those four things became the center of my world. I manipulated people. I lied to people. I did really bad things to get these drugs. The difference with food, though, food was everywhere, right? I had trouble getting fentanyl, but food, 40 stops on the way to work, and I could get any kind of fast food or processed food I wanted. And so as a result of all this, my life didn't just spiral out of control. It was already out of control. My blood pressure was 255 over 115. Metabolic numbers were off the charts. The doctor said I was well over 400 pounds. We'll never really know how much over 400 pounds because the scale literally stopped at 400. My heart would beat so hard, I would lay the remote on my chest and I could actually see it jump so high, I could see air underneath it every beat of my heart. I was on over 20 prescription meds aside from all my painkillers. In fact, in 2009, my insurance company paid almost $20,000 just in pharmaceuticals alone. I was sick and I was going to die. Through a series of stuff we don't have to get into, but we lost Heather's dear mom to leukemia that turned to lymphoma. Ultimately, a brain tumor took her life. And then my father was literally at the same time diagnosed with stage 4 kidney cancer that had metastasized to his whole body. And the doctors gave him 6 months to live, and he made it 6 weeks to the day we buried my dad. So the first two things, so we could talk about this later because it really is where the book came from. Everybody recognizes me as a plant-based guy, but really, the first thing that probably saved my life was learning gratitude. See, when Heather's mom was sick, I really got shaken up because one night I walked up to the side of her bed. She was waiting for a blood transfusion and she opened her eyes super slowly. And she looked at me and she said, "How's your knee?" And that just crushed me. Because my whole life, all I did was talk about things that I didn't have, talk about things that I needed fixed, talk about what I wanted. And I never stopped to be grateful for what I had. And that night, I was walking out of the cancer hospital and she wasn't. She was waiting for a transfusion. That night, I walked out with sore knees, but there was somebody going to get their leg amputated the next day because of a tumor. And I got to go home that night, and there were hundreds of people behind me that would never walk out those doors again. And that shift in perspective, which is another cue for the book is about perspective. That shift started a journey of gratitude and searching for gratitude, making that my main concern is where can I find gratitude? And burying my father, sitting by his graveside, we all say that, life is precious. We're not promised tomorrow, but I feel like we don't really understand that until we're sitting by the grave of a loved one. And I really learned that, we should not be wasting life. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was just escaping every day. And to watch our two favorite people in the world struggle to hang on to life because it was so precious to them. And I
Yeah.
was tossing mine away. We're trying to numb myself from what I thought was this awful pain of life. Anyways, I don't believe in coincidence or chance, but I believe it literally was divine intervention. I turned on my TV and I saw Joe Cross's film Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. And that film described me to the T. About 11 and a half years ago, I went on a juice fast where I consumed nothing but vegetable and fruit juice. I lost weight. I felt great by day 5. I woke up in the same position I had fallen asleep in. And, because I watched that, then a film Forks Over Knives popped up and I found my diet because I found I could just eat what I was juicing, add some starches, some whole grains, some legumes, nuts, and seeds. And I had my diet. And so it's 11 and a half years I gave up animal products and I eat a predominantly whole food, plant exclusive diet. And my life was not just saved. Like my life doesn't look anything like it did, 15 years ago. I don't take any more medicines. My doctor just yelled at me again on email because I'm 18 months late for my yearly checkup, which I should go talk to him. Yeah, and life is amazing. I think the best way that sums my journey up is I used to go to bed at night honestly not wondering if I will wake up in the morning. To today, I go to bed and I wake up at 4 o'clock because I am so excited about what the day is going to bring. I can't wait to get it started. And that is, I can't explain the difference. Oh, yeah, people see the weight and that's shocking, and the medical numbers, but it's the feeling that you love life that I can't put it into words. So that's the very short version of my story. I hope that was short enough.
Wow. I had forgotten some of those pieces, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's such a powerful story. It really is. And I think the biggest part for me throughout your story is that there's hope, you
Yeah.
know, that there is hope. No matter how sick that you get, there is that hope. And I that just comes across so loud. I mean, in everything that you've done, that there was the hope at the end of the day. I mean, you were medicating yourself, no question, and trying to escape. And I love, by the way, the cover of your book. That is just amazing. The escape. Oh, because it is. And I've shared that on many levels because I've lost over 100 pounds. I mean, I didn't get any close to 400, but I mean, it is a prison, and without question. And when you can get out of that and you start to feel amazing, you start to feel this vibrancy of life. It's incredible. And that's what you did. Is first of all, you had to have that wake up call, and I think we all did. We all had to hit that brick
Sure.
wall and wake up and go, oh wow, okay, this is something different. But did it take you long to convert? Or I mean, you saw the movie Joe Cross and went, I mean, that's a great story anyway, but did you just like, okay, today's the day I'm juicing and that's it? Was it gradual? Did it take time for you to fine tune?
Well, I mean, so let's put it this way, we'll break it down into pieces. So eliminating animal products was instant, which was really weird for me because that's all I ate was animal products. Like vegetables for people that couldn't hunt well. I mean, because literally we raised all our own meat. We hunted and fished. I mean, that was my whole life. That was my culture, my friends, my family. That's what we did. And I think that my ignorance going into it is what really kept me into, because I didn't think that far ahead. I'm like, this is 30 days. Like, I can do anything for 30 days. Who cares if I got to shove some carrots and apples and ginger and some cucumbers? Like, I can do that. I'll plug my nose and do it. And I think if I would have, and there's a really good lesson here that sometimes, we get into this analysis paralysis and we're calculating, what am I going to do? I didn't know what I was going to do the next day. I didn't even have vegetables. New Year's Day, I did not have vegetables. Never thought that stores aren't going to be open early. And I'll tell you, when I did get vegetables, I brought them home, and I don't know if any of your listeners have ever juiced before. I put what I thought was a healthy portion of vegetables in this juicer, and about a quarter cup came out. And I'm looking at the 400 pounds of me in this quarter cup. I'm like, we got to do something here, But the point here is we have to move. And even if it's the wrong thing, there's still value in doing something, because doing something even wrong is better than doing nothing. Because most of us get stuck in the cycle of never moving because we got to get everything in place. So to answer your question, I guess by accident, yes, I went in, snap your finger, but I did not plan that. I planned for 30 days. And who knows? I didn't even think I thought I'd be eating burgers, on day 31, but that's not how it turned out.
All right.
So,
Well,
and I could add on that too. Did I learn as I went? Yep. Because all I had was forks over knives.
right.
We're super lucky now. We have, sources like you and many others, and there's so much free information on the internet that the info's out there. I knew what I had got from Forks Over Knives film. So, for a while we were still eating oil. In fact, I thought coconut oil was healthy because I didn't pick everything up from the film.
Right.
So there was some evolution in there as well. And 11 years later, I'm still turning dials and getting this thing in, and I'll probably never get it perfect, but I'm going to keep tweaking dials and doing little experiments. So,
Well, it's the same for me. I mean, I'm still fine tuning for my life. I still have some weight to lose because like the last like 30 pounds are like they're sticking to me like glue. Like,
yeah,
yeah, no. And fine tuning, I found myself that I'm ridiculously salt sensitive and cannot have any salt on any for anything. And it will raise my blood pressure like that in a
sure.
New York minute. And
Yeah.
so I can tell if something has salt in it without question, because
Hmm.
I can feel the effects. I get blood pressure headaches. So I'm constantly fine tuning to make sure that I'm not eating, salt or salt, is hidden in some kind of processed foods or things like that. So I'm trying not to.
Sure.
So it's a journey, realizing what works for you and what doesn't. So,
Right, right.
we're
Yeah,
constantly fine tuning. So, and using food as medicine. It's amazing. It's
it
amazing.
is. It is indeed. Yeah. Yeah. And
So,
I think the food is medicine part, for me, and no one ever told me. You think with all the doctors and specialists in genetics and going to Yale and rheumatoid doctors and just all the surgeons and stuff, I thought not one doctor ever mentioned the word inflammation to me, right? Not one. My knees would get so big we'd have to cut my jeans off me. We had those scissors that the EMTs were wearing on the sides of the. We had to cut my pants off me sometimes because my knees were so swollen. Not once did anyone ever mention, hey, maybe try an anti-inflammatory diet. The truth is that whole food, plant exclusive diet is the most anti-inflammatory diet. And the reality was every single thing I was eating, the process, the animal products, the oils, the salts, the sugar, these are all highly, highly inflammatory. So when I switched my diet, I still have EDS. Like I got stuff falling out all over the place, but the inflammation part of it was gone. And that's where my chronic pain was from the inflammation. And so, yeah, food is medicine. And I became passionate early on about reading the things like the dried cherries or tart cherry juice and almonds have more anti-inflammatory effects than over-the-counter Motrin. Why don't we know about this stuff? So I would start incorporating, put that in my oatmeal and eating with purpose, almost selfishly, like what can I get out of my food instead of just pleasure that lasts for 2 minutes,
It's true. It's
Sorry, I'm ranting. I'm sorry. That's why they call me Fat Man Rants, by the way.
well, part of the journey is about food. So, you've got this great book called Fat Man's Favorites, and I love you've got some great recipes in there. How did you come up with these things?
Not by choice, not certainly not by choice. So I'm all about efficiency. I don't really like recipes. I'm rebellious, so I don't like following directions to begin with. Yeah, I'm pretty much if I had a student like me, I would probably boot him out of class. But I'm a teacher, by the way, if people didn't know that. So what I was teaching plant-based classes, I lecture a lot. So I teach like physics, science, math, this kind of thing, engineering. So my teaching style is on a board, usually doing calculations on either a screen or a PowerPoint. So I decided to do these plant-based classes and we packed it out. We did like plant-based 101, packed it out. I think it held 30 seats. And people didn't care about what was on the screen. They wanted to know how to cook. And I'm like, well, I don't cook. They said, but you eat, so you have to cook. I'm like, yeah, but I don't cook like a cook. So, long story short, we kind of evolved to what people wanted. We started cooking. So, every class then came about a 30-minute lesson. And then the next hour, we would spend cooking. One time we would make dressings. One time we do the instant pot demo. We do an air fry. We did burgers and fries. And then people are like, well, where's the recipe? I'm like, there's no recipe. Half rice, half veggies, put your favorite spices, put some ground oats, smash them up into burgers and bake them off. What is so hard about this? So they kept complaining, and Heather said, look at what. So we made chili one night, and I grabbed a green pepper. She grabbed a green pepper. I grabbed some tomato paste. And so she would make these piles of whatever I took. She'd jot them down. And then we would go in and we'd have a recipe for the people. So then we put all these recipes, as long as we were, making them all on the computer, we put them into a book. We thought the book would be a joke, but Gene, 40,000 copies are out there somewhere. And it's the most simple, basic, it's all stuff that gave us success. 3, 4, 5 ingredients and just really simple stuff. Yeah.
Amazing. It's true. Yeah. And that's what you have to go for. You have to figure out what you like and and just as important is what you don't like, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Because if you're not gonna like it, like I'd make something, I'd be in the kitchen because the first question in the house is this a make again? Whatever I'm preparing or doing. And
Right.
you know, and there'd be some times it'd be like, oh my God, the dog didn't even eat that. I mean, it was like so
Yeah,
bad. Like,
then you did something
whoa.
wrong.
No, and you're like, okay, that definitely is a no big X
Yeah.
recipe,
And I think for starting out, one of the things that helped me is I loved potatoes and ground beef with like gravy. And so what we just anywhere that there was ground beef or ground venison, we just put lentils in it, right? And so chili was always one of my go-tos. And we just swapped out the meat. And even like spaghetti, we would do a whole really hearty veggie sauce, and we didn't even miss the meat. Stir fries, we had stir fries. We'd have chicken. We just get rid of the chickens and put some more mushroom in there. So everyone likes their favorite dishes, and it's so easy to, I mean, if you make it a big deal, it'll be a big deal. But if you really want it to work, you'll figure out the swaps and figure out what you like. And the truth is, we eat almost the same. I would say you can't go plant-based because of the variety. Seriously, like my variety was pizza, wings, tacos over and over and over. So I get more variety now than I ever have, in my whole
So
life.
true. I just put out on my YouTube channel because people are like, as soon as they find out I'm plant-based, they're like, so what do you eat? Like salads all the time? I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
No, I'm too much of a foodie. And I eat more
Yeah.
more variety now than I ever did. So yeah.
And Gene, that's another cool thing too. I have a lot of friends that are foodie and they're very fancy foodies. And oh my goodness, what are you, 20,000 species of plants? Get creative, buy the dragon's fruit and the star fruit and all that stuff. Or you could just throw some potatoes in the oven and call it a day. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
love it. You can go either way with it, you know?
It's so true. It's so true. So, what are three things that someone can do to start this journey? What tips have you got for us?
So top three things, there's so many. I think the first one we kind of already talked about is you got to start.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that sounds so ridiculously simple, but if you don't start, so I have two that are really simple that I can't not mention. Not starting is what I see people's biggest thing because they got to have everything planned out. And the reality is this: it doesn't matter if you have 200 pounds to lose, 20 pounds to lose, or no pounds to lose. You just want to get healthy. It's the same stinking process. The same process gets you from lower cholesterol, lower blood pressure, to feeling better is the guy that has to lose 6, 7, 800 pounds. It doesn't matter. It's the same process. And I think because I think what freaks people out is they got to plan ahead. Well, what am I going to do for groceries? What about that wedding I have to go to in August? It's like, dude, all that matters is that next plate of food. And that's it. That's the only thing that matters is your next decision. You can't get freaked out, but you have to start. Don't worry about what's down the road. Just get that first choice. So the only choice you got to worry about is the one that's in front of you. So start right away. And then on the heels of that, I think don't quit. That's another, it sounds oversimplified. And I can make these really complex and wow you with all this. But the reality is, there's a lag to our journeys. And even now, I told you I'm turning dials. I have a big race coming up. And there's this lag that happens. And I'll give you a really quick example. You know, you're trying really hard. So you go 5 days, I'm doing this plant-based thing, and I step on a scale day 5. Holy crap, I'm 3 pounds heavier than I was Monday. Now, the first reaction is this doesn't work, I'm done. Go get bacon, because that's healthier, right? We have to give it time. There's a flip side to that too that can also trip us up. Because the other thing that can happen, now all of a sudden we're being really good at scale, whatever, water retention, whatever it was, the scales, okay, now we're losing a couple pounds a week. Now all of a sudden we go to a vegan bakery and we get that vegan donut and we eat one and we weigh in Monday. Dang, I didn't gain any weight. Well, guess what? Next week, I'm going to get 2. And you get 2. Oh, I didn't gain any weight. There's a lag to this. And then by the time you're out of control, your taste buds are all screwed up because you went back to what you do. And now all of a sudden you gain weight and you put the brakes on. And guess what the scale keeps doing? It keeps going up because there's a lag. So the key to this, consistency is your friend. You know, consistency is your friend, and you can't quit. You can't. The only way for sure this won't work is if you quit. So you got to start and you can't quit. And in between, you got to stay consistent. And consistency will help all those cravings. It'll get your taste buds. So when you eat a red sweet pepper, it'll be sweet as candy. I bit into a Honeycrisp app. That's how I know I'm screwing up, Gene. End of October, if I bite into a Honeycrisp apple and it's so sweet it hurts my teeth, I'm rocking it. I'm doing things right. When I get into the processed foods and get the sugar in there and I take the apple and it's an apple, then I know I'm doing something wrong. Your taste buds will accommodate and they'll be normal. They'll be back to normal. So
It's
yeah,
so
that was a
true.
long 3 things, but start now, stay consistent, and don't quit. If you do those 3 things, man, you're set.
It's true. It's true. And just following up on your story with the scale, I bought this. It's called a Tanita scale, and it's a multi-frequency scale. So it measures 11 different variables,
Yeah.
right? So I did a baseline, and then I like a week, I was like, I'm low caloric density. I'm eating
Yes.
all the good stuff. This is great. I get on the scale and I gain 3 pounds. And I'm like, oh, just like you, this doesn't
Yeah.
work, you know,
Yeah.
and I had my little temper tantrum and I had my little meltdown and all that stuff. But I went back and looked at the data. Now I had been really upping my exercise, you know, and hydration and stuff like that. So the scale reflected that. My hydration went up. So that's water is like 8 pounds, right? And
Sure.
so my hydration went up. My fat had gone down, which weighs less. And then the other piece was The fat, my muscle mass. It measures
Sure.
muscle mass as well. My muscle mass had gone up, which weighs more than fat. So at the end of the day, I started looking at the numbers going, oh, so I have a lot more fluid in my body,
Sure.
less fat, and more muscle. Oh, okay. So I stopped looking at that number as a whole, that's the be all and end all, because it broke it down for me.
Yeah.
So that really was a huge one for me. So
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because we've had a scale, like I'm not making this up. It's from 1960, and it's like the old healthometer with a big dial. And I would assume we probably had this because I weighed so much we had to have it was like out of a doctor's office. And man, can I cheat with that thing? Because if I like turn my head way over, I can say, okay. So I told Heather as I bought a scale, a higher end one, right? That does all the I don't know, there's like 18 different things it does or something. Um, and I call it Honest Abe. And the worst part about it is as soon as I step on it, it knows who I am and it sends it right to my phone.
yeah.
Now I've been really like I've been perfect. And I'm expecting to see this line go down right on a nice linear slope down, and it's going. It's like what? So I'm like, I can't look at this every day. I'm gonna go Monday to Monday and see what the total change is because it'll drive you crazy.
It
I
will.
I came back. I had a 10-mile run on Sunday, and I came back and I weighed 7 pounds more than when I left. And I was running. I'm burning off 1,000 calories, and I come back 7 pounds heavier.
How did that
But
work?
well, you drink 3 bottles of water. There's 7 pounds. Weigh 3 bottles of water.
Yeah,
You know.
true. True.
Plus,
No, it's
plus, when
it's
you
so true.
exercise, you get inflammation. Your waters fill up. Your muscles fill up with water. You get inflammation from working out.
No, it's so true. It's so true. Well,
Yeah.
Tim, congratulations on your new book, and
Thank you.
thank you for taking the time to chat with me once again.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. And I probably talk too much and too fast, but that's what I do.
We love you.
Bye bye, Gene. Thank you so much.